Hello, welcome back to my channel. It's Emma. I'm here to take you through my October wrap-up. I'm so happy to be bringing this one to you because it's been a while since I have read this many books in a month. I have been in kind of a reading slump, but October is just always a good reading month for me. It's a very big reading month where I just want to read every single thing ever, so I have quite the stack of books to go through with you. I hope you get some recommendations. A lot of these are of course themed to be spooky, be autumnal. I'm just gonna start giving you mini reviews of these, otherwise we're just gonna be here every day, all day. First up, we have Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. This was a reread for me, but this was also for the Game of Tomes book club, which I host with Carolyn. Our discussion of this will be coming on Friday. It's not going to be a live show because Carolyn is currently out of her country, traveling, having the best time ever, so we have pre-filmed a little something for you in place of a live show, but that will be coming on Friday. So we'll be talking about Wuthering Heights and Northanger Abbey together. Reread for me, loved it even more the second time around. This is so exquisitely painful to read that it just put me in the worst little stormy mood during the days that I was reading this, but it really is truly exquisite. I think it's beautiful, it's haunting, it's so perfect for autumn. It's such a good book. It's such a good book. I gave this almost 5 stars and I just really adore this so much. I feel so much of this book, and if you've never heard of it, we are following principally two very unhappy people. We have Catherine Earnshaw. She is the young daughter of her father and they live at Wuthering Heights. She also has a brother. Her mother is pretty much out of the picture, and one day Catherine's father brings home this young boy named Heathcliff. He just saw him one day out on his travels while he was wandering. Heathcliff was likely an orphan. He didn't have anywhere to go. He was starving, and so Catherine's father brought him home. This immediately changes the dynamic of the household, and this is going to affect everything else that happens in this book. Heathcliff changes everything. Catherine is quite unruly and Heathcliff is just kind of like her partner in crime. They wander the moors, they play games outside, they roll around in the mud, like they're just very wild and free. It's typically how Catherine and Heathcliff are described, but things obviously change as they get older and mature. Catherine starts to have some sort of relationship with the more well-to-do upper-class family across the moors. Linton and Isabella complicates everything. So pretty much Wuthering Heights is the absolutely tortured, gothic, horrible love story between Catherine and Heathcliff, but it's also so beautiful, so beautifully written. You just feel, I don't know, you just feel everything. You feel like you're right there, and I cannot recommend this enough. It's not a happy book by any means. The story is also told in a frame narrative, so we have Mr. Lockwood, who years later, after most of our key players are actually dead and beneath the ground, he comes to rent Thrush Cross Grange. I can't ever say that in my mouth. So he rents it and he begins to hear the story of Heathcliff and Catherine and their love story. Like I said, not a nice book, full of awful people, but it's just so glad I got to reread it this year, and this is the beautiful Penguin English Library edition, so that is that one. Next up, I listened to an audiobook. It was nonfiction, and that is Venice by Thomas F. Madden. This is pitched as a history of Venice from pretty much its settlement is beginning all the way until today. I picked this one up because I'm going to be going to Venice and I just wanted to learn basically as much as I could about the city and etc. Thomas F. Madden, I don't think he's a great storyteller. Venice read very dryly. It's pretty arid in here. However, this book does provide a good amount of information. It starts all the way at the fall of Rome. That's how a lot of Venice was settled, by people who were fleeing, the different groups who were invading Rome, who were sacking Rome, and they were like, where can we go? So they went to Venice, started to build it up. Of course, it wasn't a city at that time, but that is how Venice came into its beginnings. And from there, it just took off into the Republic of St. Mark's, was never, I don't think, ever defeated in naval battle, certainly never invaded until Napoleon. Napoleon was pretty much the only one who finally got into Venice. He's the one who destroyed the Republic of St. Mark. The historian just really has like a good appreciation and like details time and time again how different Venice was from other city-states that were flourishing in this time in and around Italy. Super interesting. However, my complaint is that, yeah, there wasn't a lot of storytelling here. It was pretty much just fact after fact after fact listed and then just compiled into chapters. A lot of the early chapters of Venice were just about the different doges and what they did. My other complaint is that it's called A New History of Venice or A History of Venice, but really what it is just pretty much a military history. There is very little time devoted to anything else, and I think personally I'm much more interested in the culture, the arts, how everyday normal civilians are living their lives. What food are we eating? What is our language looking like? How are we dressing? What is the style? What is going on in the theater and the arts? Venice obviously has such a huge, rich history of the arts and of opera and composition and music and theater and festivals, and so much of this book, especially the earlier parts of history, it was just focused on this battle happened, this battle happened, then this battle happened, and I was missing so much of like the at home in Venice. I didn't just want what they were doing in the Crusades. Venice famously launched one of the, I think in the first Crusade, they had the biggest presence, but so much of it I was like, wait, just take us back to Venice. I want to know what's happening. I want to know more about the infrastructure. What are the laws like? And I think there were a lot of missed opportunities with this book. So yes, it is a history of Venice from its inception all the way until today, but I think it misses a lot. And I think it scrambled in the later halves to delve more into the arts and people like Vivaldi. Really liked it, learned a lot, but I wish it would have been a more inclusive history, like focusing on different categories, not just having such a huge presence on the military and battles and conflicts and war, which of course is important, but I think there's a lot more to it than that. So anyway, that is Venice. Next up, we had a 4-star book that I really loved. I love this so much. I was not expecting this to be one of my favorites of the month, but it is The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy by Megan Bannon. I thoroughly enjoyed this. This was so good. This one I picked up because I heard about it on BookTube, and it is a fantasy romance, but with quite a big focus on fantasy and plot. The romance is not really truly center stage. I loved learning about the world. The world in here is so cool. I don't know. I think it's incredibly cool. It's incredibly my thing. We follow Mercy, who is pretty much running her father's undertaking business after he has suffered a heart attack, and he's pretty weak, so she has taken on all the work. And in this world, the undertakers, they are a key part of society, much different than in ours, because in this world where there's been a clash between the new gods and the old gods, there has been the creation of this place called Tanria, which is like shrouded in mist. This whole world and this whole fantasy landscape, I guess, they live on an assortment of different islands. Anyway, in this one place, there are these creatures, pretty malignant, evil creatures known as drudges. It's hypothesized, we don't really know, there's some theories going around, the people in the world don't really know, but it's hypothesized that when a soul escapes, and in this world your soul is stored in your appendix, when it escapes your body, when you die, or when it's been punctured, this soul wanders around until it can find a new corpse to slide into, get reanimated, and become a zombie, essentially, and that is what drudges are. Heart is a marshal whose job it is to take down drudges and protect the people of the world from these creatures, because once a zombie comes to life, I mean, they're going around wreaking havoc, killing people, looking for new corpses to infect. So Mercy pretty much processes and does the funerary rites and rituals for not only normal people who die, but people who have become drudges, been reanimated, and then killed again by people like Heart, who bring them to Mercy, and then she does the whole funeral thing. Very cool. Very cool. This fantasy world is pretty unique. It was just so cool. It was a really cool medley of a world where so much is going on. Heart and Mercy are in their early 30s, but they hate each other. They can't stand each other. Both of them are incredibly rude, so this is an enemies to lovers trope, although this one is done so much better than so many others I've seen. This one you really feel like the sting and the insult and the deep pain that they purposely inflict on one another to do more than just like grind each other's buttons, to like loosely flirt with each other in forms of teasing. This one is like, no, they straight up hate each other because of stuff that like they're going through themselves. So Hart is famously very lonely, and so one day when he writes a letter addressed to just a friend, he's just putting it out there in the world. He slips it into a mailbox just like symbolically, hoping it's gonna get delivered to no one. That letter gets anonymously delivered to Mercy. And so they start a pen pal ship, neither of them knowing that they're writing to the other one. And of course, a lot of stuff happens after that. It's so cute. It's so good. It was very comforting. It was very, very comforting. I really thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm just so happy. I'm gonna reread this over and over again, and I cannot wait for this author to write more books, honestly. I think it was so cute, very charming, great pacing, a really good large cast of characters. You kind of fall in love with every single one of them, and I really, really liked it. I really liked this. Like, I really enjoyed this. So that is The Undertaking of Hart and Mercy. So happy I got to read it this month. Really happy. Would highly recommend. Okie dokies. Finally finished this collection of Agatha Christie stories. This really beautiful collection. Look at her. Look it. Oh my goodness. Gorgeous. So this collection has And Then There Were None, Cricket House, and Endless Night, and I just so happened to have made a video on each of these stories, so you can go check them out above. Obviously the one I just finished was Endless Night. I did make a video, you can see if I solved it or not, but I think honestly Endless Night, it's definitely at the bottom of my Agatha Christie tier list. Like, I didn't really enjoy it very much at all. It's down at the bottom with Murder on the Orient Express, and I don't even know. I think just those two are down there. Murder on the Orient Express and Endless Night. Didn't really have a good time with them. Endless Night follows our narrator. He is kind of lost in life, but that's not a problem to him. He's just wandering, getting a whole variety of different jobs and experiences under his belt, until one day he is in this small town and he sees this house for sale on a huge patch of land, but people tell him that it's cursed. He has this fantasy that he just wants a dream house with a dream girl. He wants Barbie's dream house and he wants Barbie, and he is on a mission to find it. Somehow this house that is going up for auction, called The Towers, really enthralls him, and he becomes like obsessed with somehow getting the house, even though he's not well to do at all. He's like struggling, in fact. But under the trees across the way from this house, he sees this young girl. He meets her. Her name is Ellie, and he finds out that Ellie is like rich, one of the richest women in America. And they kind of fall in love, and they hit it off, and they enter into this relationship, and together they buy the Towers. Lo and behold, things start going wrong. Maybe it's due to the curse that is on this land. Maybe it's due to people in Ellie's life controlling her, because she's kind of this puppet figure. She hates her life. She hates everyone around her. She hates how all decisions are made for her. And then we have our narrator through it all, and different people that we meet too, for sure. So I just thought it was okay. I didn't really like it. I thought definitely was not her strongest novel. I found a lot of it really boring. Endless Night is probably the Christie book that I've read so far. The one that I've read so far that takes the longest to get going. There's quite a bit of time where we're just like setting things up. We're going to different places. We're talking a lot about the house and about real estate, and it just was not my favorite at all. To be honest, I found a lot of it quite boring. So I gave it 3 stars, I think. Definitely not my favorite of this collection. I would highly recommend And Then There Were None. Cricket House was really good as well, and Endless Night, I would just say skip. The other audiobook I listened to this month was Madam by Phoebe Wynne. This is a dark academia, 100%, and I have been putting this one off for a couple of years, just didn't really have time to get around to it, but I finally did. Okay, so picture this, a woman named Rose. She is a classics teacher. She loves teaching Latin, classics, ancient Greece, ancient Rome, histories, plays, narratives, you name it. She gets this offer to teach at like the most prestigious boarding school for girls only in the northern parts of Scotland. It's extremely secluded, very isolated, but it's like the top school. Like, it has its hooks in everything. It is extremely well respected. It's very intimidating. However, it's gonna pay exorbitantly well, and also her mother is ailing and sick, and she really doesn't have the funds to support her mother through her health treatments. So Rose takes the job at this school as the new head of the classics department. She gets there, things are off the rails. Things are wrong. There's something not right in this school. I did enjoy reading a dark academia, like mystery thriller-ish thing where we get the perspective of the teacher, because Rose suddenly finds her hands full with like so many different classes of young girls. A lot of them are extremely mean. They don't offer Rose the respect that she's like, I'm a teacher, like this is absolutely bizarre that these kids are treating me this way. The girls seem to have not a lot of knowledge of the outside world, although they do, pretty much all of them, have an obsession with Princess Diana. This book is set in 1992 or 1991 or 92, so right before Princess Diana passes away, and every girl is like obsessed with her. There seems to be some weird connection to royalty or to the royal family, or just this obsession with being like upper class and well-to-do and very etiquette minded that these girls have, and Princess Diana kind of plays into this. Anyway, Rose starts to kind of unravel what is going on at this school. The thing that I want to say, cool ideas, cool setting, great atmosphere. On the other side, Rose is so bland, so boring. Her narrative is so, oh my god, I hated it. It's so rough. She's basically just this wet blanket that does nothing. She doesn't take any action. The scenes are extremely repetitive. The suspense is never very suspenseful. I found myself not caring about anything, even when you find out, you know, monstrous things that are revealed. And Rose is just so useless. She is powerless in a sense, but she also is, of course, in a literal position of power, and it's just, I don't know. The author just did not nail Rose. Like, her character, writing her character. Mind is in the absolute gutter. So bland, so flavorless, so boring. On top of that, it is advertised as like a feminist, a dark feminist, dark academia. Holy moly, way too on hitting the head on the nail. Way too hitting the nail on the head. Everything was in your face. It was way too much. None of it was subtle. Anyway, the study of the classics, because there are a bunch of stories inserted throughout the novel. So we have like Medea, Medusa, Antigone, Diana, all of these stories inserted into the novel, and they do serve a purpose, although I think it was pretty messy and like a lot of it could have been explored a lot better. Like I said, done a lot more subtly. So in the end, I gave it 3 stars, but it was honestly a pretty generous 3-star because I was really bored for a lot of this book. It was kind of obvious to me what was happening pretty early on, but not obvious to like Rose. And I'm like, girl, get your head in the game. Focus up. So that is Madam. Gave it a 3-star. I would say check it out if you're interested in Greek mythology, in the classics, in dark academia for sure. If you just want to go in for like that atmosphere and you're interested like what is going on in the spooky little castle, check it out. I did a little tiny 24-hour readathon where I got through most of these books. This one I just finished up today actually, but first of all I read To Be Devoured. None of these I'm gonna really go too much into depth through because especially this one, I already talked about it a lot in that vlog, so if you want to check it out, it's there. But this one I unfortunately gave a 1-star to. I really did not enjoy this. I actually had 2 1-star reads this month. Yeah, and I'm so disappointed because I really wanted to. This one is kind of, I guess, supposed to be about a portrayal of grief because we follow our main character, Andy. She has lost her brother, her mother, and her father, all in horrific ways. They've died in horrific ways. And she has kind of started to become obsessed with this idea that if she eats carrion, and then if she eats, for example, her girlfriend or people who are still living in her life, if she eats them, will they become a part of her? Will she be able to always like keep them with her. So a lot of this book is very dark and disturbing, or it purports to be. I just did not find any of it very good at all. I think it really skimmed. It was skim milk, and a lot of it was just very underdeveloped, underexplored. The writing was just really bad, honestly, in my opinion. Not even in my opinion, just, I mean, objectively. So I was just crushed because I've been waiting and like really anticipating to be devoured, but I did not like it. I can't recommend this honestly at all, and I just did not love it. Did not love it. If anyone else has any recommendations about very disturbing horror books, because this one was supposed to be like so nitty-gritty, so dark, but when it's all of those things really pointlessly, needlessly, and it just, it was just really cringy. It was just really, really cringy. Did not have a good time. So if anyone has recommendations, please let me know, but that is to be devoured, unfortunately. Okay. I also read volume 1 of My Dear Curse Casting Vampiress by Chisaki Kanai. This one was sent to me by Yen Press. I gave this one 2 stars. I didn't like it, didn't love it, was not very good, and it was just weird in not good ways. Finally, we have an ember in the ashes, shall we say. We have A Wolf for a Spell by Kara Sutton. This is a middle grade that I picked up because I heard about it on BookTube as well, and this one I really enjoyed. I gave it 3, honestly maybe 3.5 stars. This one is on the younger side of middle grade, but first of all, the cover is really what sold me. It's stunning. This one is a retelling of Baba Yaga. We are principally following this young wolf named Zima. Someone told me that Zima means winter, which is so fitting. So Zima is a little bit of a shy wolf. She's kind of on the fringes of her pack at the moment because her wolf pack is preparing to go after the humans of the village nearby, because everyone in the village is kind of getting ready to hunt down the wolves and, more than that, destroy the forest. The kingdom is currently being ruled over by a very cruel ruler who also has plans to burn and take down the forest. Zima, as much as humans have harmed her, she doesn't really want to hurt them back, and so when she sees this little girl in the woods, her pack is like, kill her, eat her, destroy her, and Zima's like, no, and she lets this girl go free. This little girl turns out to be Nadia, who lives in an orphanage. She has no family to speak of, but she has a deep respect and reverence and love for the forest, and she's planning to abandon her orphanage to just go and live in the forest. In the middle of all of this, we have Baba Yaga just chilling, flying around in her mortar and pestle, and she has been looking, kind of unbeknownst to everyone, for Zima. Something has told her, some prophecy has been like, find this gray wolf. And so when Baba Yaga finds the wolf, she's like, what do I do now? Before Zima knows what's happening, the witch has cast a switching spell and she's run off into the woods. A lot of this book, pretty much all of this book, is 2 characters who have switched bodies. That's not something I typically enjoy. I don't know why I find it so boring, body switching. I don't know why body switching is just boring to me. So the wolf, as it turns out, gets Baba Yaga's body and vice versa. So everyone is just out in the forest, causing mayhem, trying to save the forest. Zima's trying to save her wolves, Baba Yaga is trying to save her home, and Nadia is trying to save both the one friend that she has as well as her forest. So it was really sweet, extremely quick, fast, easy to read. I would have loved this so much more when I was a child. It is very young, but like it is really, really sweet, and I loved it. And this is actually my first like Baba Yaga retelling that I've ever read. So that is A Wolf for a Spell. It's perfect to read in autumn or in winter because winter is just like creeping up into this book, and yeah, honestly sweet. If you have like younger siblings or younger family members, or I don't know, that's who I would recommend this book to. So that is A Wolf for a Spell. I have 2 more books to talk about. This first one is Minor Detail by Adania Shibli, if I'm saying that right. Please tell me if I'm not. I didn't even really realize, and I can see it so clearly on camera, but when you look at this book in real life, it's so hard to see the woman's face, but like on camera I can see that so perfectly. beautiful. This one is translated by Elizabeth Jacquet. I'll just read the very small synopsis. This spare and haunting novel cuts to the heart of the experience of erasure, dispossession, and life under occupation in Palestine, and reveals the difficulty of piecing together the shards of a narrative concealed by a fragmented history. So Minor Detail is all about minor detail. It is pretty much split exactly down the middle of the novel into two perspectives and two timelines. So the first 50-ish pages are set during the summer of 1949. It basically takes place over 3 or 4 days, and we are set from the perspective of a soldier who's pretty like in a position of upper command, and they find this young girl in the desert and they take her captive. And then the next 50 pages we switch perspective and we jump to present day pretty much, and we're following this young woman. I think she's 25, and she has just like read about this incident from the past in a newspaper, and she kind of would have glossed it over because she reads about stuff like this all of the time, except for the minor detail that the woman, the young girl who was killed 25 years exactly to the day when our narrator from the second half is born. So she like snags on this minor detail, and she wants to investigate, find out more, find out what really happened. And so she goes on this, I guess, I don't know, the back calls it like an amateur sleuth detective journey to find out like what really happened, what went down, what happened to this young girl, who was she, where did she come from. And so the second half follows her going on her own very perilous journey. Our narrator in the second half has, I want to say, almost a phobia of crossing borders, any kind of border. And it was just so well done. I think this was shortlisted or longlisted for, I don't know if it was the Booker. It was definitely something. I don't think I've ever felt like a greater switch in narrative style, like so skillfully that the author is able to do the narrative voice of the first half and the second half, and the way that they complement each other, what they say, the details that are present between both. I think you can read this book. It's one of those that you can just read again and again and find more and more and more stuff. Really good. I highly recommend, and I will probably definitely be back to this because there is so much going on in such a short space of time. I'm sorry to say we have to end the video on another 1-star moment, and that would be The 50-Year Sword by Markzed Danielewski. This is shocking to me because House of Leaves is a 5-star, one of my favorite books of all time. I love House of Leaves. I'm a House of Leaves fan. I really love House of Leaves. Okay, anyway, The 50-Year Sword, on the other hand, no. This just did not do it for me in any way, shape, or form. I think this started as a puppet show, a shadow show. Yeah, a shadow show. But the way, first of all, the way that the book is only really told on the left-hand side, and then all of the right-hand pages are blank. I also talked about this pretty in-depth in my last vlog, so if you want to hear more about it there, go ahead. But essentially, I picked this up because it's set on Halloween night, and we have this storyteller who comes in to a party because it's set at a Halloween party, and he starts to sit down and tell a really disturbing story to a group of 5 orphans. Probably a story that's not really fit for the ears of young children. It's kind of violent, it's pretty disturbing. The storyteller straight up tells them details about his life that are pretty questionable. He's not a good man, and he has been searching for some kind of weapon. That's all we know. And of course, this is where the 50-Year Sword comes into play. I just thought it was dumb. Plainly, I just thought it was stupid. It was gimmicky. That is the absolute word that comes to mind. It was a gimmick. Markzed Danielewski really loves to experiment and try out new styles. Not only that, but the narration. Basically, the book starts with a guide on how to read the book. So this is kind of what I was trying to say in my vlog, that I think you're supposed to be following along with the different colors of the quotation marks. However, the quotation marks, to me at least, like these colors are all kind of close together, pretty close together. We have dark brown, yellow, red, blackish brown, and orange. And when you're reading them on a small page like this, like good luck, essentially. It didn't even matter because the narrators they're not even different from each other, and like it's just a mess. Like, don't try to be clever for the sake of being clever. Don't try to be experimental for the sake of being experimental and then like sell it. It was just very gimmicky. It felt like, I don't know, it felt like everything that House of Leaves did pretty well, I want to say, just redone, but 1,000 times worse. And the story was not exciting. Didn't care about it at all. Didn't care about anything. It was just like, why am I even reading this in the first place? So unfortunately, 1 star. So sad, but that is what I've heard about Marcel Danielewski, and it seems to be proving true that House of Leaves is his masterpiece, his one-hit wonder, his only good book, and everything else he's written doesn't cut it. That is everything that I read in October. As usual, because I'm back from a reading slump, I didn't upload a wrap up in September, but please let me know, what was your favorite book from September and from October? I'm dying to know. I'm getting fever. I'm feverish. I must know. I hope you got some recommendations and a cozy time, and I will see you very soon on my next video, sending you a great big old hug, and I hope you're having an alright day. Ciao.
Yeah,